Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I wanted to share with you guys my birth story. So as of today, I'm currently 5 weeks postpartum. So if I look down a lot, don't mind it. I have a notebook with some details because I just don't want to miss anything, and it's been a while, so I might have to be glancing down. But I just want to start off actually by taking you to my 38-week doctor's appointment. So at this time, the doctor had did an ultrasound, and he estimated for the baby to be 7 pounds 11 ounces or so. So I was about 3 days shy of being 40 weeks. So he didn't want the baby to be so big because that could bring complications. So by the time I would be 40 weeks or so, the baby would probably gain a pound. So he was estimating that the baby would be around 8-9 pounds. And he just didn't want me to go over the 41-week mark. So I was scheduled an induction of labor, and it was for May 26th at 10 p.m. So it was going to be on a Tuesday. So Tuesday came around, and actually all that day while I was really relaxed, just did my thing, got myself ready, made sure, I wasn't missing anything in my bags. And I even took a nap because I knew it was going to be just a long day. I was very calm. So I want to say we left my house at around 7 o'clock. We had to drop off my girls at my parents' house. And so we ate dinner with them, and everything was still calm. So when they are going to induce your labor, they want you to call the hospital about an hour before, just to make sure that it's okay for you to come and that they have, I guess, a room available. So I called in at about 9. They said, "We're ready for you, come on in." So we left, and we got our bags, everything. Our mask too, because of the whole pandemic. We had to wear masks. So when we got to the hospital door, they took my temperature, and they didn't want my husband to go quiet in yet. They wanted him to wait until they actually put me in a room. So I went in by myself. They checked me in, and I had to wait in the waiting room. I want to say I waited about 20 minutes by myself. The hospital was actually pretty lonely. There wasn't a lot of traffic. They were not allowing any guests. You could only have one person with you the whole time, so you couldn't change the person. So for example, if my husband was gonna go, he couldn't come out and then a different person come in. So it had to be the same person constantly. And actually, I want to say we're really lucky because I know some hospitals were not even allowing anyone in. So by the time they gave me a room and they did the initial assessment and asked me all the initial questions, I want to say about 30 minutes had passed. So by then I was able to call my husband, and he came in. So the plan was, according to the nurse, she had called my doctor, was to start me on Pitocin, and then do which is a medicine used to start the contractions or just make them stronger, and then also do Cytotec, which is a tablet that they insert in the cervix area, that is to thin out the uterine wall, because in order for the uterus to start dilating, it has to start thinning out too. And my cervix was not thinning out, and I was actually only had about a 1.5, they had said. So I had long ways to go. So the first thing they did was insert the Cytotec, and I want to say that was at around 12:30. They didn't want to start the Pitocin yet because they didn't want me to start with strong contractions before I'm ready, before I'm dilated. So with this Cytotec, what they had me do was they insert it, and then I had to wait an hour. And then after that hour, I had to go walk the halls for 1 hour. And then after that, come back and wait 1 hour. And then they would check my dilation again. So once we did all that, they checked me and I was at barely a 2. So again, they insert the second dose and wait 1 hour, go walk for an hour, come back for an hour, and they checked me and I was still at a 2, so I was not dilating quite that much. So we did all that. I want to say this took about the whole May 27th, which was Wednesday. So that was quite a long day, but everything did actually go pretty fast. And the way I remember things is actually by nurses. So I know this nurse gave me the 2 doses of the Cytotec. Then the following nurse, the night shift nurse, gave me another. No, actually, she was the night shift nurse. And then the day shift nurse gave me another 2 doses of Cytotec, which was the same routine: wait 1 hour, walk 1 hour, and then come back for an hour, and then they would recheck me. And I was still at a 2. I was not dilating, and they still didn't want me on Pitocin only because I had started my contractions on my own, and I wasn't feeling much pain. I was just I hadn't even noticed the first contractions. But as time went on, it would just feel like pressure, and it got to the point towards the end of the day, the evening time, I was having them, I want to say, about 2 to 3 every 10 minutes, and then it went on to about 2 every 5 minutes, and they were pretty strong. So no Pitocin yet. So when the next nurse came in, around 7 in the night, she checked me and I was still at a 2. So she didn't do no medication. She got a hold of my doctor and just wanted to know if we're still doing that plan. So my doctor had a scheduled C-section at 10. So he came in before the C-section to check me, and I was still at the 2. And he said, you know, when you get to the 3, you could have your epidural. We recommend you have it just because it's taking longer, and always inducing labor could be a little more painful, or it'll last long, and that would just help out. So I was like, okay. So I want to say about 1 hour passed and the nurse checked me and I was a 3. So I said, okay, give me the epidural. So I got the epidural. And mind you, with all my other births, with my 3 daughters, I did get the epidural with them too. So I wasn't nervous at all to get the epidural. And all this time I was still calm. I was relaxed. I wasn't nervous at all or nothing. Just a little frustrated, I guess, because it was taking a while. It was taking quite a bit of time. And so after his C-section, the doctor's C-section, he came back in to check on me. So he decided he was gonna rupture my water, and that usually helps to speed up the process, and hopefully I would start dilating a little faster. So he did that. And I forgot to mention also that my baby was a mover. He moved so much, so they always had a hard time finding his heartbeat, or couldn't keep it in place for a long time. I had to move from different positions just so they could be able to monitor his heart. So after the doctor ruptured my water, the baby's heart rate kept on going down. So the nurse would come in and she'll move me from one side to the other side, and usually the heart rate would go back up. So that kept on happening quite a bit. So the nurse called the doctor, and they thought that maybe the rupture of the fluids was causing the distress. So the nurse I don't know what the procedure was called. If I remember, I'll put it on the screen. But they did a procedure where they reinserted water. So she did that, and hopefully that they thought that would help. But it didn't help. His heart rate kept on going down, and at one point it got to the point where it came down into like 77, and it shouldn't be that low. So I just remembering 4 or 5 nurses storming in the room and just telling me to get up. They put me in all fours. That way I wouldn't apply pressure to the baby. And that helped a little, but it still wasn't at the rate they wanted it. So the nurse called the doctor, and the doctor said to get me ready for an emergency C-section. So when I heard that, I started getting nervous because that was the last thing that crossed my mind, that I was going to have a C-section. So I remember the nurse put the phone by my ear so the doctor could talk to me, and he just said it was up to me if I wanted to weigh it out, and hopefully the baby's heart rate will go up, and we'll just keep on doing what I'm doing, like with changing positions and just waiting for his heart rate to come up, or if I wanted the C-section. So I just wanted the baby to be healthy. I didn't want to cause him any distress, so I chose to have the C-section. So they brought me a form, the consent form I had to sign. I remember barely being able to sign it because I was so nervous. I was shaking. Then they got me prepped for surgery. They got my husband prepped to put on the disposable scrubs and our hair nets and everything. So they took me to the surgery room, and my husband had to wait for them to prep me. So I remember the anesthesiologist was upset because the nurse didn't call him when I was still in the room so he could put the medicine through my epidural. So he said he was going to give me a strong dose, and if it doesn't kick in, then he was going to have to put me under. So I got even more nervous because I did not want to be put under. So it was a strong dose, then it did start kicking in. So they let my husband in. He was sitting right by me, and the doctor came in, and I just remember I started feeling so tired, like I couldn't keep my eyes open. I just wanted to close them, and I was just fighting so hard to keep them open, and my husband would be talking to me too, just to try to keep me awake. And I wasn't sure why I was feeling like that. So once they started the C-section, I couldn't see nothing of what was going on because they put a barrier between me, my head, and where they're doing the C-section, my abdomen. So then I just remember after a while, it didn't take that long. I just heard him cry. He was born. They told my husband, go ahead and take a photo if you want through this side of the barrier that they put. He couldn't go over or put his hand over. So at that time I was just happy because he was born, but I was still kind of nervous because I wasn't sure if he was okay. So I remember they just took him to the side, cleaned him up. They weighed him. He was 7 pounds and he measured 20 inches and a half. So then after that, one of the nurses I kind of blankly remember because how I said I was just feeling so tired that they just showed me the baby like this. Oh, here's your baby boy. And I remember I did see him, but I just was so drowsy. So after that, they took my husband and the baby out, and while they closed me up or stitched me up. And so that took, I want to say, about 15 minutes. Then they took me to where my husband and the baby was, and that was where I actually saw the baby and the little I don't know what it is, the little crib that they put the babies in. He was sleeping. I just remember I just wanted to see him. Where's my baby? Where's my baby? I wanted to make sure he was fine. They only had me in that area for about 5 minutes, no longer than that, and they took me to a room and they said the baby and my husband will come in a minute. So once they came in, that's when I actually got to see him after all that. And that's when I got to do the bonding time, put him in my chest, and I was able to feed him. And I was just so happy that he was finally here. We were only in that room for about 2 hours. Then they took us to our final room. And I guess what they told me was that I had lost a lot of blood during surgery. That's why I was feeling dizzy. They just wanted to monitor my blood. And my blood pressure was very, very low too. So they wanted to monitor all that. So when we went back to the room, the first thing they wanted was to get me up and walking. So I walked down the halls while they gave the baby a bath. They wanted to make sure I was able to walk, and at this point I didn't feel any pain because I want to say the medications were still in effect. So that's what we did for the rest of Thursday, because I had him at 3:47 a.m. So the rest of Thursday, and then Friday, and the doctor just said he wanted to make sure my blood counts go up before he discharges me. So we thought we were going to go home Friday for some reason, but when you have a C-section, you're at the hospital longer. So we were just ready to go home. And during all this time, we had to wear masks. We wore our mask every time a nurse would come in, or they would bring me my food, or the nurse assistant would come in to check our vitals. We always had a mask on. They always had masks on. The only time we would take them off was when we were in the room alone. So Saturday finally came in, and usually they would come in early in the morning around 5 to do my blood draw. And this time they didn't come in that early, so we had to wait. I think it was around 8 or 9 when they finally came in. So we had to wait for the results, and finally when we got him, the doctor came in. He said if I was ready to go home. I said, yeah, I've been ready. I just want to go home. So he discharged me, and I just need to take, I had to take the iron to help my blood, and my blood was slowly coming up, so that was good, and my blood pressure was also coming up, so that was good. So we were discharged finally Saturday, which was May 20, was it May 29th? Well, I don't remember exactly what day it was. Probably May 30th. It was May 30th. We were finally discharged, and we were just so happy to be home finally with our baby boy. The most important thing was that he was nice and healthy. And just during this time, I've just been recuperating from the C-section. It does take longer than a regular vaginal birth. And I've just been trying to walk. The first week was when I felt the most pain, and it was just pressure, hard for me to pick up the baby, so my husband would hand him over. But thank God I feel way better now, hardly any pain, and we're just happy we're all together now. So I'm gonna bring the baby in so you guys can meet him. So I like to introduce you guys to my son, Gabriel. He is so cute. We're just so happy, like I said, that he's finally home, and he's already actually a month old. And so guys, that's it for my birth story. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and please subscribe for future videos. Bye.